My name is Pavelski, and this is Internship and Training. So I interned at 5 Star Mechanical. It was founded in 2005, so it's relatively a newer company. And they already have over 100 employees, so they've grown pretty fast. It was founded by 4 people, Scott Weger being one of them. He's one of the reasons I got my internship. And you can find it at 1707 South Hoover Road. That's right off the highway, pretty easy to get to. So one of my mentors this internship was Scotty Richards. He's actually a first-year apprentice. He graduated from OSU IT last August, and he's already getting journeyman jobs. They have enough confidence in him to put him out by himself and just work on his own job. He completed Lorraine Mennonite Church in about 4 months. It was a bigger job. They were remodeling all their air units on the roof and all their furnaces. So it was a pretty big job for a first-year apprentice, and he got it done relatively fast. My second person that I was interning with was Zach Chambers. Zach Chambers is one of the most knowledgeable persons I've ever been with in my HVAC career. He taught me a lot about how boilers, chillers, and just air conditioners in general work, and how the Freon and the R10, it's a type of refrigerant, how it migrates to the coldest place instead of actually staying where it's at. It doesn't stay still where you normally think it would. It actually moves like it's alive. But this picture right here, we were up on top of Union Rescue, and these are just the PMs that we were doing. So PM is preventative maintenance. It's supposed to prevent big breakages. So if your motor goes out, it'll set you back at least a week or two because you have to order that, and right now everything's back ordered. So preventative maintenance just kind of helps you to just save a couple $100. So my third person, Scott Weger, he's actually the one that got me my internship. He's the one in the white right here. It's kind of hard to see, but he's been a lot of help. He kind of explained what I was going to be doing and how long I was going to be doing it, and he hooked me up with a bunch of really nice people and that knew their stuff. I was very appreciative of Scott because I don't think I would have been in the same spot without him. He actually owns the company, and he's a project manager, so he works there, but he also owns it. He kind of help things run a little bit. He's in charge of all the Textron people. So there's 3 campuses to Textron: the Pawnee, East Side, and the Mid-Continent. Mid-Continent is actually right down the road from 5 Star, and that's where most of our plant people are at Mid-Continent. It's where there's about 15 people out there just doing PMs and just making sure it keeps running throughout East Side, Pawnee, and Mid-Continent. There's 1 week I was at Mid-Continent just doing PMs on their moving cools. It's their portable air conditioners that they use to keep themselves cool while they're building their airplanes. They get kind of angry when you try to take them from them because that's kind of their way to cool down and make them not get grumpy. So, as I said before, this is Lorraine. These are just the 2 mechanical rooms we were in mostly. The roof, it was actually snowing one day, so we were all frozen. It was me, Scotty, and this other apprentice, Taylor. We had to re-pull some wire because the wire we pulled wasn't long enough, so we had to go do it in the cold, which wasn't ideal, but it had to be done so this would get done in a timely manner. You'd have to take at least 10-minute breaks in between each pull because your hands would be so frozen that you couldn't feel them. But that was a fun experience. I really liked that. And so right here, it's kind of hard to see, but this is one of the bigger furnaces. It took a while to install because you had to run all this wire from the third floor all the way to the basement through a chase, and it was just kind of hard to maneuver all the pipes that were already in there. And then this is where their water heater was. That's what this is right here. They had the plumbers go and do that before we came in. But it was also really fun to just watch what Scotty was doing because he was knowledgeable about everything, and he would just teach me all this other stuff. And even on my first day, I showed up and he was on the roof, and he asked me if I've ever brazed before, and I was like, no, like I was not planning on brazing today. He's like, well, here's a torch and here's a brazing rod, so lay down there and go braze. I was like, okay, sweet. So then he just kind of sat next to me and kept me going, made sure I was doing everything right and not messing everything up to where they have to redo everything. My next place I was at for about a week or so was Union Rescue. This place was pretty memorable because it's a homeless shelter too. So we do all their PMs and we do all their maintenance for them. So this was a rooftop unit we were doing PMs on. I was washing its coils. And this is a smaller unit compared to some of the ones I was with. It was a 2-ton, not like they get up to pretty big, about 20-ton. It's really small compared to most of them, but they were still fun to wash out. So that was after I washed it. I should have taken a before and after because this was full. It was just all brown. Like there's no silver like you can see here. It was just all brown. But it was still kind of satisfying just to like spray it all out. And it takes a while because these are micro channel coils. They're the newest technology in the coils. They're just kind of hard to wash out because they're so small that the dirt just sits in there. And like, so Zach was telling me, you just have to just go line by line, just slow and steady. And then, because if you don't clean them right, there could be like the unit will fail, and then you have to come back and clean it again. Make sure that the motor's tight, make sure the coils aren't filled with dirt or anything. And it just keeps the whole air conditioning system going. So that was the front of it. So this panel comes off. So the first picture back here was the back. That's where, so you go from this side in. So we took this panel off and sprayed from the inside out first. So you spray all the dirt out, but then you go back and you press it all back in. You just kind of do that a couple times just to make sure your water's clean coming out the back. And it just takes a while because I think these 2 units that I did took about an hour and a half. It was most of my day because we went back and then we did the electrical part of it, checking the capacitors, checking the contactors, making sure that it was actually running smoothly. But this is the second one that I cleaned. It was at 6 tons. It was a little bit bigger and a little bit harder to maneuver because there's more pipes in it. And the copper pipes would just get in the way of my spray, so it was kind of hard to get on the inside. But this is another after picture. Like I said before, this whole thing was mostly brown. Like there was a little bunch of spots everywhere. And it was kind of nasty because I should have taken a picture of the roof. The roof was all brown after that. It was white to start, brown at the end. It was kind of nasty. But it was still kind of cool to just watch and see how clean you can actually get them and take pride in your work. And this is one of the smaller ones. I really don't know why they had this on the roof. There's no really reason to it. It's a smaller, like, I don't even think it's a ton. It's one of the smallest units I've ever worked on. It was kind of funny because he's like, well, this isn't going to take you very long, so might as well just kind of spray it out and let it go. And so this is another, I missed that picture. Anyways, I took a picture of the back and just didn't put it on here, but those coils are not micro channels, they're the older coils, so they're a little bit easier to clean out and a little bit faster. So it only took about like 15 to 20 minutes just to wash it out and make sure everything was running right. Alright. So I was at Farm Credit with Zach Chambers again, and we were doing PMs on the chillers and getting it ready for the hot summer. And that was really cool to see how the chillers work. I was on the top of the chiller tower, which is about 10 feet off the roof. And then so there's a wall around it, so you can't really see off. But it was still kind of cool to be on there and just see how it all worked. But this was the top of that Farm Credit building. And so that's Exploration Place and Arkansas River and everything. I thought it was pretty neat to be up there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun being with Zach too, because like I said before, he's really knowledgeable. And we were passing the boilers and he asked me if like I've ever seen one or if I've like known what goes on in them. I told him no. He's like, well, we got time, we can just explain everything. So I really appreciate everything that Zach did about just explaining everything to me and making sure I knew how everything worked and that he was preparing me for the future. I'm really appreciative because I'm also going to be in this field within the next couple of years after my that's what I'm saying. Anyways, the most memorable day was at Union Rescue was washing out all those coils and seeing how much dirt I actually got out of them. And Zach was actually kind of impressed when he came by and saw the coils were just clean as like Mr. Clean's head. And it was just a lot of fun to see that. So my skills that I learned, so at Lorraine, when we put all the new furnaces in, we had to wire up all the solenoids. The solenoids let the refrigerant in and out of the system to make it cool or heat. And so I got to wire those up. Scotty just kind of threw me into that one too. I mean, it's not that hard. It was just 2 wires. You hook it to black and white. It really didn't really matter which went which. But he's just like, well, you can do that. That's easy. Which, I mean, it helped me out a lot. And then brazing, like I said, Scotty threw me into that one the first day. It was a lot of fun to learn how to do that. It was kind of hard at first because you got to make sure all your heat's even on the pipe, and then make sure you're kind of steady with this right hand with that brazing rod. But it was a lot of fun to do that. Then the mounting and wiring the smoke detectors. He asked me if I've ever done one of those before, and I've obviously said no. And he was like, well, here's a wiring diagram. Like, this means this and this means that, so go. So I went and mounted one and wired one myself, and that was pretty interesting too. And then reading the wire diagrams, he explained that all to me. And washing coils. Washing coils was probably one of the most interesting things, because you think it's just kind of mindless, that you're just kind of just spraying. There's kind of a technique to go like top to bottom, inside to out, and back out to in, which, so that's what I'm going to be doing in the summer, this summer, is washing coils out of Textron. I'll be one of those guys that'll be out there every day just doing PMs and checking everything. So I was really appreciative about that. And one day I was with Lyndall. He taught me how to recover a unit and taught me which hose went where on the gauges. There's a high and low pressure that has to be specific, because if you get them wrong, it doesn't work. So recovering a unit just means you're taking all the moisture out of it and just making the system all empty to where it can be worked on, and you don't have to worry about getting your hand frozen and just getting frostbite. So with these recoveries, we're actually just taking everything out of them so we could put new units on and crane pick more units on there and then hook them all up and do it all again. And like I said, the high and low pressure on the units, the blue is low, red is high. Usually if you can see the line set, the smaller pipe is the higher pressure and the lower pressure is the bigger pipe. It's just the higher pressure has more PSI going through it, so there's not as much condensation as the low pressure, because the lower pressure, it'll make condensation on the pipe, so you have to put insulation around it so it's not leaking everywhere and make stains. So my secondary plans are to go to OSU IT and further my education into HVAC, and that'll put me close to where Scotty was, hopefully, if I'm a good student. It'll be for commercial HVAC, so I can just go right into it after college. I can apply for a job or ask. I've asked 5 Star if they'd have me back, and they obviously said yes. So for the school, it'd be a trimester, so I'd be there for 6 semesters, so 2 years. I'll be there in the summer, and on my 3rd semester, there'll be a 16-week internship from June to about November, and that'll just be with 5 Star, just working, like on-the-job training and not in the classroom. So I thought that was kind of cool to be a little bit different than all the other colleges where you're going to be in a classroom all day, and then you have the summers off. So I just thought that was going to be really, really fun. I'd like to thank Scott Wager the most for getting me this internship. It has been a great experience for me and to see what all my field is going to entail. And I'm really just appreciative of that. I'd like to thank Mrs. Bergkamp for just dealing with me. It's kind of hard. And I'd like to thank Scotty and Zach because you both were really helpful in my experience to teach me about everything that goes on and all the new things that I learned. And I'd like to thank obviously Ms. Shack and Mr. Stanhope for introducing this program.